instrument. It used to be one of the most popular of them all, in the days of Benny Goodman, Artie Shaw, and Woody Herman. They were the big three of the instrument, with record sales, public appearances, and radio broadcasts that made them household names in the world of swing music. But that was long ago. Nowadays, you hardly see anyone playing the clarinet. Since the advent of guitars and synthesizers, popular music just ain't what it used to be, musically. However, there are a few who won't let the instrument die, won't let it fade away like an old soldier. Case in point is Rick Bogart, whose roots stem from New Orleans, where he was raised, and where a certain style of music seems to live forever, no matter where it's played. He knows he has a mission that not many try, to do nothing but play his clarinet for a living. Though he's been able to do that in the past, he finds more and more these days that it just isn't all that easy. He did have to find a day gig.
Well, I teach high school, and high school a few blocks from where I live. I was substituting around during the daytime because I found that I had a lot of time on my hands.
Rick teaches English in high school. He got his degree from North Texas State University, which happens to be a pretty good place with a big band, too. But teaching does not mean wanting to play any less. Though it's not as often as he'd like, the gigs are still out there, like regular appearances at Tattoo, a Manhattan restaurant known for its haute cuisine as well as stylish music. It's a former opera house where Rick and his assemblage play music while people eat and move their feet. The clarinet is a difficult instrument to master, and it's not something made easily either. The best of these instruments are made of a rare wood called grenadilla, found only in Africa. It's very heavy and it sinks. It used to be used as ballast in the holds of cargo ships. Once very cheap, now it is sold in lots only, much like diamonds. Grenadilla gives the clarinet a warm and rich sound, like that found in Rick Bogart's clarinet. Rick Bogart's father came from the Catalan region of Spain many years ago, then settled in America, becoming a lawyer. His mother, a pianist and singer, was from Dallas originally. Eventually, they settled in New Orleans with little Rick, and what a world it became for him. Music was everywhere.
Got a job in New Orleans playing music 6 nights a week, and I think after that, I was rather spoiled.
And while growing up, Rick listened to the great ones.
I liked Benny Goodman for his technique and his drive, his flair and improvisation.
Benny had a habit of calling you up. If your name was in a paper for playing with somebody, he'd call up and say, "Why don't you come with my band or play with my group?" So he saw Don Arnone's name. He's a terrific guitar player who did a lot of studio work in New York, and he said, "Don, I want you to come with my band," you know. And Don is a very quiet, easygoing guy. He says, "Benny, this is a great honor for you to call me, but," he says, "you know, I can't do it. I do 2 or 3 recordings during the week, and I'm subbing on the Arthur Godfrey show." He says, "I can't go with you, but please tell me who recommended me to you." And Benny says, "My doorman."
And then Artie Shaw, I liked him for his style of improvisation, but I always thought he had a really lovely sound.
Artie Shaw? Who's Artie Shaw?
Yeah.
But while the masters of swing clarinet were his favorite, Rick Bogart found himself playing more in the New Orleans style of the likes of Irving Fazzola, a little-known though very talented player who had his own cult following. Others included the fiery Omar Simeon, who took a backseat to no one. There was the Chicago School of Clarinet, epitomized by the legendary Pee Wee Russell.
Well, I wouldn't say that I would try to emulate any one of them in particular. I try to take a little something and see if it will apply naturally to what I do.
I'll tell you, I saw a clarinet player in Ascona, Switzerland. Last summer, I played a festival over there. It was for Eddie Lang, so we had a lot of guitar players, but one of the other stages had a clarinet player. The kid's name was Manny Urso. Did all of Benny Goodman's things, note for note, plus his own, and then for an encore, he got up and played the drums for 20 minutes like Gene Krupa.
Another trendsetter from New Orleans was Sidney Bechet. He was the first of the great clarinetists. Eventually, he moved to Paris, playing the soprano sax and influencing the great John Coltrane on that instrument. Many players double on instruments. Even Benny Goodman played the saxophone.
Well, Benny used to play the alto, you know. When he was playing at Billy Rose's, the Diamond Horseshoe. Where was that? The Paramount Hotel? I think it was
before
before he started his band.
Yeah,
so
right,
he gave his horn to Jaime Schertzer, who was playing violin. He says, "Go down the cellar and learn a few songs on this alto." See, so Jaime became one of the best alto players in the country.
When I was a teenager, I took 3 clarinet lessons and said, this is just too difficult, and I was too lazy and undisciplined. Then I discovered the tenor saxophone, and I realized I could get some gigs, actually earning some money, playing the saxophone and just honking on one note, because in those days it was very popular to be a honker, R&B, rhythm and blues, rock and roll, just getting underway. This is the mid-50s. So that's my clarinet story. Yes, Rick can play the clarinet. He does have his own style, his own approach, his own voice. And that has led to various recording sessions featuring some of the better players of this music called jazz, born in New Orleans. Someone who heard him play and who had some connections of her own was Ethel Gabriel, who was with RCA Records from 1940 to 1982, having been associated with the Benny Goodman records of those days. Now she's the owner of Jazz Mania Records.
I go to clubs often, and it takes a lot to get interested in what I'm listening to. Something really has to spark me. As the night was going on, it was such a refreshing experience to hear Rick play jazz the way I remember it when Benny Goodman was playing it and when Artie Shaw was playing it. It brought back that same feeling.
It's up to me. I have to find my own way. It's different today. It's not where you can just do things the way they were done and play songs the way they were. A person has to have musical integrity, but I have to find my own way, and I'm going about it slowly, but I'm going about it.
A clarinet is very difficult. And when you heard a clarinet player like Johnny Mintz, guys like Andy Fitzgerald play with Dick Stabille's band, and they play with Joe Mooney over in Jersey, they all had a certain thing about it. And the clarinet is higher than any instrument. It's the highest instrument in the band. And in Glenn Miller's band, they used the clarinet to hit high notes just in case that trumpet player didn't make it. You know, they used the clarinet to hit the high note.
And that was part of the voicing that made the band.
Exactly. That besides, yeah, they've had the lead clarinet.
an engagement in Cleveland, Rick found a supporter in the person of John Richmond, the jazz critic of the Cleveland Plain Dealer.
Harks back to a style that was prominent in the 1930s, and that's basically the style of the swing era, but with a New Orleans accent. At this point in jazz history, we have the whole spectrum of jazz available to us in live performance. Everything from the early jazz of King Oliver up to the most avant-garde electronic jazz. And Rick is a part of that.
Lucky enough to experience the elegant big band era, you're certainly familiar with Benny Goodman. He tutored his instrument so skillfully, he received international fame for blending big band music and jazz to form a style called swing. In doing so, he was honored by the title King of Swing, which brought notoriety to his music and his reeded instrument, the clarinet.
Unfortunately, instruments like the clarinet have taken a back seat to more modern-day music makers like electric guitar and synthesizers. But you put an instrument like the clarinet in the hands of a master like Rick Bogart, and it's music to anybody's ear.
I think he's fantastic. It's the first time I've heard Rick, and I do like jazz, but I am a novice.
As far as I'm concerned, jazz will never take a back seat to any musical form. Jazz is it.
A lot of them just like to have something else to listen to besides what they hear on the radio all the time. Maybe something a little more mellow, something a little more laid back.
We have, over the last 25 years, we've had a lot of good jazz groups. Rick is one of the best. He's probably one of the best clarinetists that's come into this city.
The timing is just right. As today's modern music is becoming increasingly stale, the second generation of jazz greats like Rick are ready to capture a new audience. Man on Music, Dave Tarbert for Live on 5.
Some musicians who played with Goodman said he could be very stern and cranky, but Bucky Pizzarelli loved him.
I was always dreaming about playing with Benny, and it was a long process until I finally met him on the Camel Caravan show that I was doing with Vaughn Monroe's band. And he was a guest with Joey Bushkin and Louis Belson. And I was this close to Benny, you know, and oh, I went crazy. Everybody loved Benny. Gene Krupa loved him, and I know my favorite tenor man, Zoot Sims, loved Benny, would do anything for Benny, you know. And we played with Benny for a long time, and we never had any trouble with Benny.
The clarinet also meant something very special to a great singer.
I was introduced to Frank Sinatra one evening in Atlantic City. He says, the clarinet reminds me of success. At the Paramount, I was on the bill, Benny Goodman was on the bill. It was my first success, major success. I remember the sound of the clarinet. It brings back good memories. And he said, I'm going to come in to see you.
Rick came off the road for a while, preferring to stay in one place, even though he could have been traveling and playing much more often.
10 years ago was not my time. I was very happy 10 years ago traveling and working around the country on the average of 40 weeks a year, because that's what I truly felt I needed and wanted to do. If I'm going to do it, I want to have the experience, and I would rather learn it and have it down under my belt, and then try to be successful.
In New York these days, Rick finds some of the better musicians in all of the jazz world to play with, like the bassist Leonard Gaskin, who played with Louis Armstrong's band that also featured another of Rick's favorite clarinetists, Benny Goodman. Leonard also played with the other end of the jazz musical spectrum in the mid-1940s, when he was with this group featuring Charlie Parker, Miles Davis, and Dexter Gordon.
Rick is a very inventive dude. I mean, he plays a strange-looking clarinet with gold keys, but he has a good sound, and I guess that's primarily what's important.
What is fascinating about this music, when, for instance, Rick plays with Leonard Gaskin, he knows he's playing with someone who has a piece of history connected to him. He was there on the stage playing next to and with Louis Armstrong. You don't get any greater than that. Louis Armstrong is the #1 individual in the music of jazz. There's also a picture of Leonard Gaskin with Charlie Parker, Dexter Gordon, Miles Davis at Birdland. I mean, that picture doesn't exist in history books. So all of this, it's whenever you're with someone who has been with the greats, you just have that little feeling of you were part of it too, because there's that osmosis, there's that association that comes out of that, and it's just, you just can't buy it. You can't pay for it. It's just, it's spiritual. By now, you may have a pretty good idea of how Rick has formed his own style. But how about the way Duke Ellington fused the styles of 3 clarinets into his classic, The Mooch, one of Rick's favorites?
The Duke started something, as other bands began using multi-clarinets too. Comes easily to Rick, but getting a steady gig, man, that's another story. In the fall of 1998, Rick tried another tack, a larger band, with visions of cruise ships on the horizon.
Gosh, I was in French Polynesia. Papayati Tahiti, Moorea, Hua Hini, Raya, Tea, Bora Bora, Mahina, and Otamudu. Playing down there for tourists, French people, Americans.
And to do this, it helps to have musicians who like to play with you.
I really enjoy playing his music because it's an older style than I normally play, and I enjoy the early swing style because it's such a basis for all the other kinds of music that I'm involved with as well. So it's nice to get into those roots.
He's introduced me to some songs that I've never heard before, never played before, and going back into the New Orleans tradition, which is a tradition that I'm not exactly from. I'm sort of a bebop player, and I have been for years, but it's taken me into a place where I say, gee, there are so many songs that I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, this song is an old New Orleans Baptist hymn, song entitled Just a Closer Walk with Thee. This is the song they play when a jazz musician dies in New Orleans. He gets a jazz funeral, and this is one of the songs that they play. Me being a bona fide New Orleans jazz musician, I qualify for a jazz funeral. As a matter of fact, I made a deal with that great clarinetist Pete Fountain. He said if I would play at his, he would play at mine.
When Benny Goodman played at Carnegie Hall in the late 1930s, he established a standard by which most clarinetists are judged, especially on the legendary rendition of Sing, Sing, Sing.
You have to love what you're doing. You cannot contrive being a successful musician. You have to have it in you. You really have to have the feeling, and Rick has it.
Rick has it all right, but getting it across to an audience is what it's all about. That's why rehearsing a band is so important. In 1999, Rick was seen in an HBO movie starring Susan Sarandon. You can hear his clarinet throughout a dance hall sequence.
How did you learn to dance?
I get around. When I was younger, my sister, we were growing up, she was shy. And if she didn't get invited to a party, you know, I'd put on a record and we'd dance around the room and to cheer her up.
Aw, your sister was so lucky to have you. I bet you're really close.
No, I haven't seen her in a while. She got married, moved away.
Oh. Well, you're a really wonderful dancer.
I got Rose Avenue show.
Every time I hear Rick play, it seems to me that he is talking to his audience with a great deal of truth and authenticity.
Who knows knows, but one day Rick may have a big band of his own and get into the act just like Woody Herman did it.
With baby, she's great big feet, she's lonely like had nothing to eat, but she's my baby lover just the same. Crazy about that woman cause Caledonia's her name. Caledonia, Caledonia, what makes your big head so hard? Love you just the same. Crazy about that woman cause Caledonia's her name. Caledonia, Caledonia, what makes your big head so hard? Caledonia, looks so grand tonight, Caledonia. Tell me everything, tell me more, tell me all. Love that gal. Caledonia, Caledonia, what makes your big head so hard?
Listen and watch now as clarinets even get into the act behind Fred Astaire from the movie The Second Chorus. Many styles that have gone into the making of a clarinet player from New Orleans. Rick has traveled all over, and you may even find him on a cruise ship playing for you. He was on a slow boat to Alaska in late 1999. Now Rick is playing more and teaching less. That's the way he wants it, and the clarinet is all the better for it.